Welcome back to Mean Streets, the podcast where we investigate the best, worst, and forgotten movies of film noir and more. I'm Luke Deckard.
And I'm Matthew Booth.
And we are your cinematic sleuths. Now it's time to crack another case. Welcome back, Matt.
Hello, Luke.
So we got a pretty cool episode lined up for everyone tonight.
We have.
Before we dive into our thrilling discussion, it's just want to do some housekeeping.
Yep.
As we, sometimes I say it on a more regular basis, other times I forget. But if you haven't yet, if you're not, following us on social media, follow us on our Facebook pages, follow us on Twitter, and if you haven't yet, leave us a review on Spotify and Apple. That stuff really helps us out. We want to keep doing this. We want to keep growing and keeping you guys entertained. So those things really go a long way. So if you haven't yet, come follow us, come hang out with us, share the episodes, tell your friends about us, and leave us a review, because that stuff really does help us out, believe it or not. But
it does.
Without further ado, Matt, why don't we dive into this week's investigation? Well,
today we're looking into 2002's Femme Fatale, starring Rebecca Romijn, Antonio Banderas, and Peter Coyote, and written and directed by none other than Brian De Palma. The plot summary on IMDb, the logline, is: a woman tries to straighten out her life as her past as a con woman comes back to haunt her.
Well, let's start with that logline.
Is that how you summarize this film?
Yeah, I'm going to reread that just so we could re-emphasize this. A woman tries to straighten out her life even as her past as a con woman comes back to haunt her. That's not the movie I watched.
That's not the movie I watched. And nothing about that summary says femme fatale to me.
No, it's a woman is trying to mask the secrets, a woman is trying to I don't know, keep her past buried.
Yeah.
While trying to evade con men who are, who have uncovered her secret identity. That's
and they're out for revenge because she's betrayed them.
Yeah.
So, I think she's sort of on the run.
Yes.
When I read it, I thought that's not the greatest summary that IMDb have ever put out of a film.
No. Whoever was in charge of writing that, but I have seen that version of the logline in a few different places. In an old article from back in like 2000, described the femme fatale as a woman who is haunted by the misdeeds of her past.
Well, that's more like it, but I take exception to this the use of the word haunted. I don't think she is particularly haunted. No. Quite necessarily. I think she's out to do what she feels she wants to do. And,
yes,
as with all good femme fatales, woe betide anyone that gets in her way or falls under a spell, sort of thing.
Yes.
I don't see that she's haunted. That suggests to me that she's trying to sort of make amends, or that she's trying to...
Yeah, well, as tries to straighten out her life. I mean, that is also make amends. She's not trying to straighten out.
And trying to forget anything. What she was. Yeah, and sort of find some redemption. I don't.
Yeah,
she's the film I watch. She's not out for redemption at all.
No. Depending on which, it also depends on which part of the film you're watching. Which, it's almost like the log line is based on the last like 5 minutes of the movie, and not the whole hour, 2 hours that went before it.
Do you think that's all they watched?
It's a weird one. It's weird, but
it is.
All right, let's go into initial thoughts of Femme Fatale.
Well, I texted you, didn't I, after I'd watched it, and I said, well, I think I'm still reeling. It's not what I expected it was going to be. That's the first thing I want to say. But I had a look at some reviews online, and if ever there was a film where there's no middle ground of opinion, it's this. You either love this or hate it, and based on other people's opinions. And I have to say, I'm not. I know I'm going to do one, but I'm not wholly convinced I know which one it is. I wonder if this is a film that I might have to watch again to get a proper sort of sense of it and a proper nailed down opinion on it. Because there were some things that I liked and there were some things I thought were just bonkers. But the things I liked generally, we'll get into it, but they're sort of by proxy.
Yeah.
Because they remind me of other things.
Yes.
Which is not unusual in a Brian De Palma film, given his Hitchcock obsession. There are other people that I think have had an impact on how this film is presented.
Yeah, this was obviously for everyone listening. This is both of our first time watching this film. Obviously we did Mission Impossible. This is the second Brian De Palma movie that we've covered, and we love Mission Impossible.
Yeah, we do. I love a lot of De Palma films.
Yeah, De Palma's directing is generally very good. The way he shoots his films are dynamic and interesting, and there's a lot of dynamic visuals and stuff going on in this movie. There's a couple of very good performances scattered throughout here, but I knew nothing about this film. I can't remember how we came onto it. I don't know if it was just because maybe we were looking for something a bit more like early 2000s neo-noir, something like that.
I think we were looking at trying to find something that was in that period, and this is what we picked.
This is what we picked. We had, hey, Brian De Palma, Rebecca Romijn. Rebecca Romijn Stamos at this point in time, actually.
Yes.
She was a Stamos here. Stamos gets a little cameo. He's the guy on the phone to Antonio Banderas.
Yeah.
But
Peter
yeah,
Coyote. I'm a Peter Coyote fan. He's long standing.
We'll get into cast. We'll get into cast in a bit.
He was a draw for me. That's what I'm saying. De Palma and Peter Coyote were a draw for me for this.
Yeah. But yeah, so like I said, this is both going into this without having seen it, without knowing almost nothing about it. And it's as I was doing some research on this, someone attributed a John Updike quote to the film and to De Palma particularly. And the quote is from Updike's essay, The Disposable Myth. And he says, and the quote is, "The willingness to risk excess on behalf of one's obsession is what distinguishes artists from entertainers." And that is De Palma all over in this.
It sure is.
Everything is in excess. Everything is in excess. And it's off camera. We were sort of just talking about like Marvel movies. Because you had just watched the director's cut of the original 90s Captain America movie.
I have,
and then we were talking about the current Marvel, the older, like the original MCU entry movies of Iron Man, Thor, and Captain America. And I was saying how all of those movies were just like serviceable. They were just basic entertainment, and you put something like Femme Fatale up against something like Captain America: The First Avenger. One is entertaining, and one is clearly an artistic expression of something.
Yes, yes, and you decide what it is. You decide what it's expressing.
No, there's nothing subtle about this, but it's done with conviction. I would say he is. He's not being. I don't think De Palma is being lazy or crass about what he's doing. I think he's being intentional about it. When it's both being serious and being silly, and it's very art housey. So my initial takeaway was that this just felt like this. It's clearly like a postmodern like reevaluation of who and what the femme fatale archetype is, that sort of bubbles with a lot of interesting ideas, a lot of interesting David Lynchian and Hitchcockian ideas that at times feel a little bit of a ripoff.
Yeah, David Lynch is the person when I say by proxy, I mean David Lynch, but we'll talk about him later.
Definitely. Absolutely. And like I said, it plays very housey. There's a lot of not talking. There's a lot of people in rooms doing things and acting, and you're learning about them through actions rather than through dialogue, which is cool. It's good to do that, but at the same time, there is the end result of the overall film feels wobbly because there is pieces that feel missing, scenes that maybe feel a little bit half-baked, you might say.
Yeah, I'm not disagreeing.
Yeah,
I'm not disagreeing.
And I guess what's interesting to me is this film has had a bit of a resurgence over the past 20 odd, not 20 odd years, but like 10, 15 or so odd years. It's sort of got a cult status now, and I think as I was reading various contemporary reviews, and by contemporary I mean going back as far as like 2012 up to now, and reading what people think about this film, I'm not sure it is a misunderstood masterpiece that some people like to maybe claim that it is. But it is interesting.
Yeah, I don't think it's a masterpiece, but I do think it's a film.
It is a film.
Do you think it's a film that might deserve another view? It's one of those very much like a Lynch film. I mean, I had Mulholland Drive all over the back of my mind.
Oh my God, yeah.
Because it's like a bargain basement Mulholland Drive. And I don't mean bargain basement in the sense that it's cheap. I mean it's Mulholland Drive without Lynch's, what makes Lynch films Lynch films. It might be a better film on second view, and I don't mean that it's a bad film. I mean it might be a more accessible, film on second viewing, in the sense that you know what you're going to get the second time around, so you can settle in for it. Yeah. I certainly prefer Mulholland Drive on the second viewing all those years ago, and now I think it's one of my favorite films.
Let's go behind the camera and talk about a little bit about the production of the film and how it got made. As I was watching it, I just kept thinking this feels so cheap. The camera, whatever the quality of camera they were using to film this, had a very sort of cheap Euro style to it that you just. At this point in time, when this came out, I was living in the States, and there is a distinct difference between like poor quality American TV and films and poor quality European TV and films. And it's just something very unique about poor quality, like kind of cheap, cheesy looking European indie films, and this had that all over it. And
you compare this to Mission Impossible.
I know, right? Like a real movie.
There's a massive difference.
Yeah. And yeah, so so I just had this felt like a straight to DVD sort of vibe to me, which is the case. In it had a small release in the States, but then was a straight to DVD, straight to video release. I think at least in the UK, it was a straight to DVD release, which doesn't surprise me.
No, it didn't surprise me. It didn't surprise me.
It's budgeted between 30 to 35 million, and its global box office was 16.8 million. So, not the best.
That's a killer in it.
Yeah. Not the best. And I mean, it's interesting because this it's Brian De Palma. He is he's Brian De Palma. He's he's got a stack of great hits behind him.
Yeah, some of my favorites. Some of my favorites.
Yeah. But this is a point where things are a little bit rough because he's just come off the back of doing Mission to Mars for Disney.
Yeah.
And that film is so bad.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't remember it well enough to have a proper analysis of it, but I remember thinking this stinks.
Yes. Yeah. It's weirdly it was one of those early films on like DVD that for some reason or another my parents bought me and like, here, you'll like this. That's in space. I'm like, all right. And I remember watching it and I remember just even as a kid being like, this is weird. And it's like someone saw that like the face on Mars and thought we need to make a whole movie about that face on Mars.
Yeah.
And it needs to actually be a face.
Yeah.
You know, it's just a bad film. And we actually we did rewatch it about 2 years ago. And it's just as bad. Like the physics in this thing doesn't make sense. Like they're on this spaceship, side tangent, they're in this spaceship and they're heading towards Mars, and there's this like exercise room where someone is walking around, like literally walking around in a like upside down circle. And it like visually it looks cool. And this is like De Palma like perfect. It sums up De Palma perfectly. The visual of this is cool because you got this guy. I think it's I can't remember which actor it is. He's walking in this circle, you know, going up and down, and then there are behind him or to the side of him are little cubbies, little offices, and like someone's sitting at a desk, you know, working. But then it's like, wait a minute, what is gravity?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
It's like, I know that you're on a spaceship and there's gravity, but then there's not gravity, but then there is but that's De Palma. It's like there's a lot of flash. There's a lot of cool.
Yeah. Who cares? It looks good. It looks good. You know,
yes.
It looks cinematic, and that's enough. And of course, the film that he does after this, after Femme Fatale, is The Black Dahlia, 4 years later. Which, I mean, that's another real stinker. I'm going to go out on a limb and say I'd rather watch Femme Fatale again than The Black Dahlia.
I would be happy
for a lot of different reasons. A lot of different reasons. De Palma's filmography has got things like Obsession and Carrie. Carrie's one of my favorites. Dress to Kill, one of my favorites. Blowout, Scarface, Body Double. You know, they all have their moments of cinematic cheese, perhaps, as well as moments of cinematic brilliance. You know, and The Untouchables is another that I think is really good, really solid film, and it looks brilliant, and it's brilliantly directed and brilliantly acted. So, you know, he's brilliant, but hit and miss. And I don't, in terms of, he's not consistently brilliant because the projects aren't. I think that's the issue. It's whether he has a selection problem. But for this, he's like writer and director. So where else do you go?
Critic response to this was, in terms of like the general production of this, I couldn't find anything of any note to really dive into specifically. So I guess they had a good production.
I guess it went well. Yeah, I guess it went well.
The 2 weeks that they used, they needed to film this, I guess. I don't know how long it went, but it feels like this is a film they shot over the span of like a week. The critic response is interesting, as you said. It is very, very split. But I find it interesting. I always like going back and seeing what Roger Ebert scored some of these films at. He was very kind to this one.
Yeah, he was. He loved it.
4 stars, quoted as saying, "Sly as a snake, Brian De Palma's Femme Fatale is a sexy thriller that coils back on itself in seductive deception. This is pure filmmaking, elegant and slippery. I haven't had this much fun second guessing a movie since, wait for it, Mulholland Drive."
Well, there's a shocker, Roger.
Yes. But it's going to be hard to not compare this to Mulholland Drive.
It's very difficult because I felt the spectre of Mulholland Drive on my shoulder all the way through this.
Yes, and
I mean, I don't think it's that's not a sort of rapier, sharp cinematic criticism. It's just blatantly obvious. But of course, De Palma does this. Dressed to Kill is a blatantly obvious rip-off of Psycho. And Obsession is Vertigo. This is what he does. He takes films he admires and likes from directors he admires, does his own spin on them. It's nothing new. This, it's nothing new.
Well, then he does Femme Fatale, where he takes all of those things and
yeah, exactly.
Shoves it into one.
I mean, Ebert also called
Double Indemnity.
And Double Indemnity. Oh, he's so blatant about Double Indemnity.
We'll get
through
there.
the opening titles. Ebert called it an exercise in superb style and craftsmanship, and I might question the word superb, but it's definitely an exercise in style and craftsmanship, without a shadow of a doubt. Going back to the Updike quote.
Yes. Yeah. There is an interesting style. There's interesting editorial choices. The split screen aspect of it was very bizarre.
Yeah.
I don't think I like it. It jarred with me
all the way through this film and others of De Palma's. There are like sort of patchwork quilt qualities to them. I've taken this from that film, this from this film, put it all together, and because it's a mix of everything, and I've put it together, it becomes mine because it's not exclusive. It's not a remake of anything. It's mine.
Yeah,
and we all do that to a certain extent. I think it does feel a bit like cheating when it's this obvious.
Sometimes,
it does feel a bit sort of disingenuous to say this is Brian De Palma's Femme Fatale when really at its core it's David Lynch's Mulholland Drive. Now I don't know whether that's it might be, to be fair to me, it might be a coincidence. I don't know. There's only a year between the two films, but like you say, this could have been shot in a year.
This could have been shot in a couple of days. They use the same two sets the whole film.
Yeah, absolutely.
But no, yeah. So this film, it generally was bombed, financial bomb. Critics were split to some degree, but it's not even. I mean, back in the day, there was no Rotten Tomatoes. There was no, to say was it 50-50, I don't know. But needless to say, this was not a hit. Didn't track well in various parts of the world, and in 2002 it received nomination. He received a nomination for worst director and also worst actress for Rebecca Romijn Stamos. And I think there's probably some truth to that, because I like Rebecca Romijn. I have nothing really against her acting, but in like general, but I was very much like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
The accent, terrible.
The accent. Didn't she also?
Yep. She got an award for the worst fake accent as well.
Yeah. Well, she deserves that one, definitely.
Yeah. Like I don't it was one of the things, like I didn't understand the need for that direction. Like, why did she need? I mean, I get it because she's assuming someone else's identity, but also, come on, like, cast someone who can do a French accent.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, she's not great in this, is she?
Well, this is where it's complicated, because I would say the opening, she's not good overall until the bridge scene, and the bridge scene onwards, she does really. I think she comes into it, and I start to buy this character.
Yeah, I was the same. It was as if she got better as shooting continued. As shooting progressed.
Who knows? I mean, that's assuming they did it in order, which they probably didn't.
No, but that's the impression that I got, that she's sort of learned a few things as she's gone along.
Yeah.
And has put them into the performance, because it certainly gets better. It certainly gets better.
Yeah. Either that, or she just understood, or had felt more conviction with that with that latter part of the film, like, you know, the climax of it, because that for me is you know, is when she came into her own. But we'll dive into the scenes of this in a bit more detail.
Yeah.
It is interesting though that both I read that Uma Thurman and Jennifer Lopez were mentioned as possibilities.
Yeah, I read Uma Thurman and Jennifer Lopez as well. Now Uma Thurman, I think she's too good for this.
let's caveat that by saying also that De Palma wanted someone of a Rita Hayworth quality. Uma Thurman is a fantastic actress and she's fantastic about everything she's in. I'm not sure she matches a Rita Hayworth.
She's not Rita Hayworth. No, she's not Rita Hayworth. I don't think any of those three choices are Rita Hayworth, to be quite honest.
No.
You know, I think that's a poor comparison. And why say Rita Hayworth and then show Barbara Stanwyck? That was my other. That's not entirely consistent, Brian. You know.
Well, he wanted someone with that quality. That's what he was looking for in the star of the piece was that. And I think, yeah, but I don't think either of those particular. I mean, Jennifer Lopez, absolutely not. I mean,
absolutely not,
Jennifer Lopez would be gorgeous to look at, but that's about it. That's about it.
Yeah. I'm not a leading authority on Jennifer Lopez's acting career, but from what I've seen of it, I think I've seen enough of it, if you know what I mean.
Yes.
But I mean, I think Uma Thurman would have been interesting. I do. I think she would have been quite fascinating to see what she'd do with this. And we got old Rebecca, who I only knew from the X-Men.
Yeah, the X-Men is my introduction to Rebecca Romijn Stamos. Not Stamos anymore, but that was, you know, that was my introduction to her. And I guess this 2002, so she's actually right off the heels.
Of the first one.
She's right off the heels of the first X-Men movie.
Yeah.
You know, so this is in between X-Men 1 and 2, where she's playing a femme fatale.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
You know, a character of Mystique.
Is she good as Mystique? I don't think she don't have to do much, I don't suppose, does she?
No, she's fantastic. She's very good at Mystique, but they do what they do with Mystique is very little, and they keep her quite, I suppose, mysterious. You know, so she in terms of wanting someone with a gorgeous figure to walk around in a film, you know, to be basically naked but painted blue. You know, she fit the bill for that, but she does give a good performance as Mystique. Like, you know, her Mystique scenes are strong scenes, and this is where it's like you know, when you get to the bridge scene in Femme Fatale, that's when I'm like, oh, I can see that you're finally acting now.
Yeah.
Whereas before, there's the kind of the beginning of the film, there's almost a quality of, it's almost like De Palma is maybe wanting her to be B-movie like, is that like from I want to go into detail a bit more on some of the latter, but the beginning stuff, but just really quickly, like, you know, this scene when Antonio Banderas' character Bardo takes a photograph of her for the first time, you know, it's very cheesy, very B-movie looking. And when he follows her in the car and they go to the hotel, it's all very cheesy B-movie like, and to the point where it's like, well, I have to wonder, I have to speculate. This must, to some degree, this must be what De Palma is going for. He's going for cheesy B movie, 1940s B movie, but in, you know, 2002, you know, Euro, you know, 2000s MTV Euro trash version of a B movie.
What that would have been.
A 40s B movie. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I had sort of very vague Grace Kelly vibes when she was when he first takes a photo.
That absolutely.
You know, and that sort of, because she got a headscarf on, I think, and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And she looks like that was what I was thinking he was going. And she's married this. I know he's not a prince, but she's married this ambassador.
Yeah.
Who's loaded and
Yeah.
Older than she is by some way, and all the rest of it. And I thought, this is Grace Kelly. But again, in that sort of B movie knockoff discount way.
Yes.
And that I felt that very strongly. But I agree there is this discount is the word, I think, quality to it all. That it's too obvious. It's too clearly done for it not to be an intentional artistic choice.
Yes. Yeah. Because there are things throughout the movie that just sort of scream at you, like the scene. Well, let's start from the beginning. I mean, just the opening of watching Double Indemnity. I mean, that is basically telling you what's going to happen in this film. From that opening scene of her watching that film, you've got the femme fatale who what's her famous line about not having a heart or something like that. I can't remember. I'm rotten to the heart. She says, I'm rotten to the heart in Double Indemnity. And so, she's watching that. They both are, shot. They're going to die, blah, 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 which is exactly what happens later on in the film. She dies, but also Bardo dies. And, it's like, okay, well, you foreshadowed it so obviously by having us watch that scene in Double Indemnity while she's lying in bed naked, emphasizing that sort of sexual wile and that kind of lustful gaze that comes with the femme fatale kind of archetype that you kind of picture, and and then you're just sort of okay. Well, that's kind of the meta text, behind that opening is, okay, right. This is, you are trying to. It's hard because I don't know if I don't know how much credit I want to give De Palma for thinking this through, but it's she is sitting there and she is watching one of the most iconic movies in film noir history with an iconic femme fatale. The film is called Femme Fatale, and she is the femme fatale.
Yeah, it's all a bit overstated.
Is this in many ways, this film is sort of trying to look at this archetypal character of the femme fatale, and then also subvert the character of the femme fatale. But what is it saying about the femme fatale?
Yeah, you see, I was thinking. So again, to emphasize the point, went into this without knowing anything about it, and the first thing I see are the sort of closing scenes to Double Indemnity, and I thought, well, that's a bit on the nose, And like you say, it's setting up that we're watching an iconic femme fatale. We're also watching a femme fatale in a film called Femme Fatale.
Yeah,
it's all a bit overkill, and I thought after it had finished, I thought if she was just lying on that hotel bed or penthouse bed or whatever it is, and she wasn't watching Double Indemnity, do I lose anything? And the answer was no. And so that meant then that I felt that her watching Double Indemnity had just become a sort of sledgehammer over the head, like emphasizing the point, so that we're in no doubt that this film called Femme Fatale is about a femme fatale, and that she's it, And I think, come on, Brian, we know where you're going.
Yeah.
So I didn't. It was in danger of making me think, just as it later did with Mulholland Drive. Shall I just turn this off and watch Double Indemnity instead?
Yeah.
Because I quite like to watch this now till the end. If she's watching it, I'd quite like to watch it with her now. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's sort of that's not helpful. That's not helpful a response to have. And I just thought, here we go. And it goes back to the point about excess. There's just a lot of driving the point home, and yes, he's saying this is the world we're in and this is the world you're about to inhabit for the next 2 hours. But I sort of know that before I go in from the title.
Well, exactly.
And the minute I see an ice cold Hitchcockian blonde lying in a bed with nothing on, I sort of guess who I'm looking at. You know?
Yes.
So that was I didn't think her watching Double Indemnity added anything to it. I really didn't.
Other than just it tells you what the whole film is going to be about.
Yeah, exactly.
And I suppose one could maybe argue that the reason the film plays out the way it does is because that film is in her head.
It's in her head. Well, then we come down to the old argument of, is it a clever cinematic narrative choice then?
Yeah.
Or is it just overstatement?
Yes.
And like you, I don't really want to give it too much credit for being that clever.
Yeah. Yes.
You know?
But at the same time, but then kind of building off of that, there are moments throughout this that sort of do have a shade of cleverness to it. Like, for example, there's when Bardo is sitting on his balcony overlooking that square where there's the church and stuff. There's kind of a pylon for advertising, right?
Yeah.
And across the top of it says "Deja Vu."
Deja vu. Yeah.
And we have so many scenes that take place in that scene that it's telling you you're going to have deja vu in this bit because you're going to be here and you're going to see so many things from this bit. And it is also where at the end of the movie where she where our femme fatale Rebecca Romijn meets Bardo again at the end, having deja vu.
Yes.
And so it's all very sort of. There's also a moment where Bardo has followed her to that sort of she goes to that strip joint and hands them and goes inside that building and hands some guy some money, and there's the gun is pulled, all that kind of stuff. But as her car comes to a stop, where the screen on the right hand side of the screen, there's another one of those advertising pillars. And it's a picture of, what is it? The thing from Shakespeare.
Yeah, Death of Ophelia.
Death of Ophelia. Yeah, the death of Ophelia is there. However, the face of Ophelia is Rebecca's face.
Is Rebecca? Yeah, absolutely.
But it's because she is in a tub.
Yes.
She is Ophelia in the tub, submerged, about to drown. And then when she's thrown into the water, when she's thrown to the Seine, like that whole, in a Christ-like pose, weirdly enough, there's this sort of rebirth. There's a death and a rebirth.
Yeah.
Comes up, reborn, and whatever. So it's one of those things like there is stuff to admire about the narrative and the way the dreamscapeness of this world is how it's playing out, which is then it's like are you being really clever here, De Palma, or is this being lazy at times? But then there's other bits like I can't call this lazy. So then what's the intent? And that's the most fascinating thing for me is the intent behind
absolutely
some of these choices.
Now, all those things that you've mentioned are much cleverer to me. They're much cleverer decisions and choices, and much better executed, and much more Lynchian than her watching Double Indemnity. So
yes,
whilst that might be this, you've got to accept this film is now in her head. Yeah, I can buy that, but those other clues are much more subtle to me, and for that reason, are much better and much more powerful. I don't mean powerful, but effective. Much more effective than her watching Double Indemnity. And by comparison, to me, that then feels a bit lazy and a bit cumbersome.
Yeah.
Because the others are so deftly done and so beautifully done that just seems like a sort of stumble,
Yeah.
and a clumsy one at that. So, and that's one of the overriding impressions of this film for me. Why is some of this in it when it could be so much better without it, or certainly not have lost anything if you took them out? And it's borderline frustrating to me, because I think there's a really good film trying to get out here.
Yeah.
Personally,
Yeah.
and it's almost there. It's almost there. It's just that there's some bits in it that make you go, "Oh, why have we done this?"
Yeah. Yeah. It really is a bizarre one, especially when we get to especially once we sort of once the opening is finished, because here's another interesting little, possibly an interesting dig, or not, I'm not sure, but the film opens up with this whole diamond heist, right?
Yeah.
You need to get the snake in the cage, and the snake is this gorgeous woman who's wearing nothing but like this golden snake wrapping around her body that is, covering her most private bits. And but it's funny because the femme fatale is posing as a photographer at the Cannes Film Festival, which Mulholland Drive premiered at in 2001.
Yes.
So
see, it's all there.
It's all connected. It's like, okay, what's going on here? Because this film didn't come out till like late 2002, basically 2003. So this Mulholland Drive would have been well and truly done and out. So it just feels like, is that this is a film that is very much in that vein. And here we are at Cannes, where the meta text, to this,
all the meta stuff is just
funny.
All the meta stuff is just there, laid out like a buffet.
Yes,
for you to
even
look at.
Even in this opening, like we even get like a weird Mission Impossible nod with the guy in the vent.
Yeah, and the cat,
which is like with the cat playing with the dick. I mean, that's the thing with that snake. The snake like porch that this guy has. Yeah. But like very phallic.
Yeah, she's got a snake wrapped around her.
Yeah, and you have this scene offset by Rebecca Romijn going down on the model in a bathroom, like very voyeuristic. And it's so, the opening is just insane. The opening is insane. The stealing of the diamonds is nuts.
Well, it is, because she's undressing her. And then I say undressing her. She's taking this gold snake thing off her and then putting it on the floor, while a character called Black Tie, because he's in a tuxedo, he's putting his hand under the door to swap it with fakes. And you think, this is a really risky plan.
Well, it's risky until you understand what's going on. And what I will say is that particular twist did get me. And that is, I didn't realize that she was in on it with the girl that she was banging, and the clues are there. And so that, again, this is where it's frustrating. It's like, this film is so bad, but also quite good at the same time. It's very bizarre.
I don't know if I love it or hate it. This is why.
So it's like, it's interesting because in that scene where they're in the bathroom, like she pulls out like some scissors. Rebecca Romijn pulls out some scissors and puts them underneath this girl's neck, and like you're like, and for a minute she looked kind of scared. And then she drags the scissors over the top of her, down her chest, and then they look at this wire that's connecting her her snake ensemble, and they both sort of smile as she cuts it, which then sets off an alarm. Like she knew, they both knew what was going to happen with that snip. And so then when you find out later on, like, oh, because there is this sort of mystery as to, because she goes and she meets someone, and because she's trying to get passport, and then later in the film, she's seeing there's the when Black Tide comes back, he chases this woman who we only see from the waist down, wearing camo jumpsuit sort of thing.
Yeah.
And then throws that person in front of a truck, and you realize that is her. And it's like, oh, okay, right. So they were in it together. Now the problem that I think I get back to is this whole diamond heist. Like, where does it go? Like, we have this opening, this like 30-minute opening of this diamond heist, and then the diamonds just fade away from the plot almost entirely. Even though Black Tie comes back, you're still sort of like, are we ever gonna like find out about the diamonds? What did she do with the diamonds? Do these diamonds matter? Who owned the diamonds before that girl was wearing them?
Yeah, there's all that is all that isn't filled in. No, the diamonds are just a MacGuffin, aren't they?
Yeah, but a bad MacGuffin, because the MacGuffin never comes back into play properly.
Not properly, no, not properly. But don't they? I mean, I took it they split the proceeds.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, maybe. But I mean, it wouldn't have hurt to show a bit of that happening. No.
Yeah, and well, this is. I mean, again, we had trouble with Mission Impossible and some of the twists and the reveals there, because they were sort of. So they weren't necessarily playing fair.
They weren't necessarily playing fair, no.
And this is probably one of them where you're like, oh, you got me because you didn't show us who this person was she was meeting with, which...
That's exactly it. That's exactly
okay.
It. Because when you... I mean, the final sort of 5 minutes of the film, roughly, are a replay of some of the earlier moments of the film. Yeah. And when you first see the camouflage boots and the shorts, I mean, I thought it was her.
I did too.
Yeah. And you're obviously meant to think it's her.
Yeah.
So that is cheating from a fair play sort of whodunit detective story perspective. That's cheating, because you're not telling me there's a possibility of it being someone else. So that is deliberate misdirection, which is fine. It happens. But does a twist work if it's not been properly planted? Because is it a twist if it comes out of totally left field? I don't think it is. I don't think it necessarily is. I think everything's got to have been seeded, so that when you watch it again, like in The Usual Suspects, when you watch it again, that twist is always there for you to guess.
Yeah. Well, I guess it's also made me think of, our discussion on the Smallville episode Noir, which is a whole dream episode. And as we discussed with Zach and Anthony, like, the dream logic doesn't quite make sense with what you're doing. And I think that is also a risk here, where, if we're going with dream logic, well, it's your dream. You're never not in the scene in your dream.
No, exactly.
which Mulholland Drive knows how to play with that and does so very well.
It does. Mulholland Drive, although it takes a while to get to it, and on our episode on it, I said I think it's quite straightforward as to what has happened. You've just got to watch it several times to penetrate it. But it certainly plays fair. Once you know what's happened and who is who, it does play fair with both the dream quality and as a detective story.
Yes.
And that's why Mulholland Drive for me is so brilliant, and why this is a sort of discount version of it.
Yeah. Yes.
And yet I found I can't honestly say that I wasn't enjoying it. I was enjoying it. This is why it's such a it's a very difficult film for me to pin down this.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. No, it's there are layers. It's somehow as stupid as it is intelligent. It's frustrating. It's a very frustrating one.
That's exactly
But
how I
again,
feel.
but again, like even like kind of going on something that I things that I did like. Um, I mean, like I thought the sort of well, guess actually let me rephrase that. Things that sort of the dream thing is complicated because there are moments before she enters the dream world that are very dream-like.
Hmm.
One of those being after she goes to that church at the very towards after the heist, she goes to that church, and the parents of this woman Lily see her and think that she is Lily, and they chase after her. Blah blah blah. Big run. Um, Rebecca's character runs to a hotel, goes into a room, and she gets into a fight with one of the other guys who was involved with the heist.
Yes.
Now, weirdly, she walks into a room and there's a blinding light,
Yeah.
blasting in her face, and she's literally like holding her hand up, like it's literally there. But in reality, no light like that would exist in that scene in that moment unless he put up a light, which he didn't because it was coming from outside the window.
Yes.
And he's
Right.
holding like a camera or something like that as he's approaching her. And while there is a very cool kind of fight uh scene and playing with light and shadow, it's something that would have made more sense in a dream
Yeah.
than in reality, and this is happening in the reality bit of the film before we get to the dream bit.
Yeah, and on a much more practical level, if it were a dream, I wouldn't ask the question, how has he got
Exactly.
in?
Exactly.
How has he got into a hotel room before her?
Yeah.
You know?
And why can't she see him? It's a
And
dream.
why
That's
can't
why.
she see him? Yeah. So I agree. Yeah. And if, I mean, it's a cliche, isn't it? You say, well, it was all a dream. But I don't mind that when it's done well and it makes sense. And this scene, but as you rightly say, this scene is in the real world. She's awake. And nothing in Mulholland Drive that happens while Naomi Watts is awake is impossible.
Exactly.
It might be a Lynch version of Waking Life, but it's not impossible. And but yeah, I had the same feeling. How's he got in here? Where's this light coming from? Why can't she see him? And is she? Is this real?
Yeah.
And because I was already, this is what I meant. This is part of the reason I say about I'm still reeling from one thing I didn't understand or process. Because I was still trying to get my head around the fact that she is such a lookalike by coincidence. She walks into this church where the parents of this woman that she just happens to be a dead ringer for are sitting.
Yes.
And I thought, I could buy that in a dream.
Yeah. Yes.
But the film's asking me to believe that this is what she does. This happens.
Yeah. Yep.
And I find that
wait, what?
really jarring, right?
Yes. Yes. That is one of the problems. I was like, wait a minute, the dream logic is applying to the real world, which doesn't make sense. So it's like when you're in the dream and you're seeing things of with the scene from the Shakespeare play, and or you're seeing deja vu written on the the pillar there, or that when you're seeing that stuff in the dream world, it all sort of clicks more.
Yeah, it does. Yeah.
But because it's happening in the real world before we get to the dream, I'm just not. But then at the same time, it's like, what kind of dream is she having? Because she is literally predicting the actual future of what's really going to happen, and the only reason we know that for a fact is because she emerges from the tub. And her lookalike Lily has returned and is doing the exact thing that she saw her do in this premonition, dreamy premonition.
Yeah, she has had a premonition in a dream. Yeah, definitely.
So it's almost like maybe you should have just like, instead of have like some sort of dream, like make her take some kind of drug.
Yeah, or something. Yeah, something. Because the other example of it being dreamlike and Lynchian, but in the waking world, is when after the fight in the hotel room and the hotel sort of corridor, he throws her off the balcony onto a load of towels, that breaks her fall.
That should have been when she enters the dream, to be fair.
Yeah, and well, that's the point I was going to make, because the next time we see her, pretty much, the parents are with her, and she's in bed, and it is all shot pretty much from her point of view, and there is something distinctly otherworldly about the parents in that scene, something out of David Lynch. The way they are acting, the way they are performing. There's no sort of special lens on them, I don't think, but the way they are moving and acting is not natural.
Yeah, even the walls of the room have that train spotting effect when he's tripping.
Yeah, it's
very
sort of curved, or
yes.
and all sort of out of perspective a little bit.
Yeah.
And I thought, is this a hallucination? I was thinking then, because the idea of it being a dream hadn't occurred to me yet. But I was thinking, is she hallucinating this after that fall? So yeah, you're absolutely right. If that's if she falls through that glass shelf or whatever it was, roof thing, onto the towels and passes out and is in a coma or something similar, and everything after that is a dream, then the parents make sense. The parents make total sense then, but it's not. That's not what the film says is happening.
No, because what the cops just let them take her home, or they just pulled her off and just drag her home? Like what?
Yeah, what are you talking about? Yeah, exactly. And so
just tell like 3 stories. You take her to the hospital.
Yeah, onto a load of towels. And I was thinking that sort of thing. I've only just got over that, and then you're hitting me with something else that you're asking me to buy into, and I'm, he's going a bit quickly for me, this Mr. De Palma, because you're not giving me time to catch up.
Yeah, it goes from here's this crazy heist, and there's the whole heist experience, which is nuts, which feels like it's out of an X-rated version of Mission Impossible, and then suddenly you have this, you're smashed to this like, I need a passport, and then this whole chase being thrown off scene, and then you're smashed to her in this this couple's house in the tub looking at all these pictures or whatever, and then and then the girl comes home for some reason and kills herself, and then she takes the passport and her plane ticket to America and flees. Or then smash, she meets American man, businessman, who then becomes French ambassador, and he just dumps a bunch of exposition about how awesome and great he is and how much money he's earned and all this kind of stuff. And you're just like, okay. And then suddenly, bam, you're smacked again by 7 years later. You're like, holy shit.
Yeah.
And this is all within like the first 30, 40, 35 minutes.
Absolutely. It's a total onslaught. It's a total onslaught of the senses. And there's no time for it. It just keeps going. There's no time for you to take stock. Because I was thinking 7 years. What the hell's happened in 7 years?
Yes. Well, again, that was part of the problem. It's like, well, this is 7 years down the line. Where are those diamonds? Would Black Tie really care? Would he recognize? Would he actually recognize her per se? Like, would she not have reinvented herself more? As the why does she need to be the elusive French wife of Ambassador Man?
Exactly.
He's the guy who was Keys from E.T.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, and he's the prosecutor in Jagged Edge.
Yes,
but why don't Lily's parents wonder where she's gone in those 7 years?
Yeah, or do they know?
Do they know? Yeah, I don't know. Are they still alive? I don't know.
Yeah, yeah. It's weird.
The whole double thing, the whole doppelganger thing. I mean, that's David Lynch all over. But he actually explains it if you let him. If you sort of go with him, and I just don't think this does.
No, I think
to question whether we needed this plot strand. Why can't she have gone to ground in Paris?
Yeah, I mean that, or if you're gonna doppelgang, like, the conceit needs to work, and I don't think it works here. I think
No, I don't.
I think it's too easily handed to her.
Yes, yeah, exactly. And it's also she can say at the end, "Go and save your life." Well, that's fair enough. But
Yeah,
because it's not handled as well as I think it could be, that doesn't really pay off to me.
yeah.
That feels like a bit of a that's what you were going for, but you haven't quite given me the stepping stones to get there with you.
Yeah.
You know?
Speaking of not having the stepping stones to get there, when Black Tie comes back and he's wearing the same bloody clothes, and I'm like, wait.
Yeah.
And then I was like, what? And I realized apparently he'd been in prison.
He's been in prison, yeah. So
and I'm like, wait, but blood, it would have been brown, and they probably would have given you new clothes.
Yeah, yeah. And if this is part of the dream, how does she know what's happening?
Well, this is the other problem, because like it is part of the dream, but this is where it's like she is. It's not a dream because actually she's seeing the future. She knows that he gets out. She knows what's going to happen. She knows that, and this is where it's complicated. It's like this isn't just your basic dream, but somehow, some way, submerged in that French bathtub, she is having a bizarre out-of-body experience where she is literally seeing the future.
Now, let's just take a moment to think about that. So she's lying in this French bathtub and she's seeing the future for whatever reason.
Mm-hmm.
That means that what she's seeing has got to be possible and logical, because it's going to happen in the real world.
Yes.
Yeah. So, and I know this sounds like a petty point, but the blood on his shirt should be brown then.
It should be. That's just lazy.
You can't convince me that it's still red because it's a dream if she's not really having a dream. And she can't be having a dream because she's not in that scene. And like you say, you can't dream about things that you're not involved in. It just doesn't happen.
Yes. So
there's a load of these problems in, for the sake of this one payoff that we get at the end.
Yeah, it's bizarre, but also with that as well, like her whole plan. I'm not really sure I necessarily buy into her whole plan with Bardo, with Antonio Banderas' character. For her to have set it up and to execute it to the level that she has, it would have taken. And again, this is the problem, because like, yes, this is a dream, but also this is her literally predicting the future.
Yeah.
And the reason you know that she's predicting the future is because the end scenes happen exactly the same. So she knew this was going to happen. Somehow she knew this was going to happen.
That's right.
And so you just sort of like, wait a minute, like, wait, hold on, movie. I know you're taking me on a ride, but again, I think this is the problem with the it's like that scene from Mission to Mars. Don't ask questions. Just look at the guy walking upside down while the other people are sat in desks behind him spinning around.
Well, it is the same problem. Yeah. And it's as if the film says, right, so she's a femme fatale. So what she's got to do is dupe an innocent man and probably end up killing him.
And how does she know she would actually be able to dupe the guy who took her picture?
Yeah. But it doesn't happen for an organic reason, because, like you say, I'm not really sure what the plan is either. I'm not really sure why she's doing it and what she actually thinks is going to happen. But it's as if the film is saying, forget all that, because what's got to happen is she's got to dupe him and frame him. Now, if you take something like Body Heat, where, regardless of what you think about the film Body Heat, the plot to frame William Hurt is properly thought out, and it works. It would work as a framing plot, but I don't think this does. And why does this? Why does it work? What's the plan? So they get the ransom money off Peter Coyote, and then is she going to kill them both anyway, or does she only kill them because Antonio Banderas' character tried to get himself out of it?
Yeah.
Because if she's gonna, if she's going to split it, if she's going to split the money with Antonio Banderas, so not kill him but only kill Peter Coyote, then you've got to believe that she's going to stay with him.
Mm.
And I don't believe that she is going to stay with him when I find out what her relationship is
No.
with the girl from the bathroom at the opening.
Yeah.
So she's got to kill Banderas. So,
but also, why does she
it just
need
doesn't make
to,
sense.
Why does she need to do any of this in the first place?
Well, no, quite. Why does she need to do any of this in the first? Why don't she just go and get the diamonds and do one?
Well, where are the diamonds?
Where are the diamonds? Well, presumably the girl's
like we have the MacGuffin that's set up that never pays off.
Yeah.
Where did they go? I mean, we, I guess they pay off in the non-dream because she
pay
gets
off
that,
in the non-dream.
But this is meant to be the premonition of the future, so she must have had those diamonds and has done something with them. Like, what did they do?
I think the film. I don't think the film can work out whether it is a dream or not. Or to put it another way, I don't think the film wants you to think it's a premonition.
Yeah,
I think it wants you to think it is a dream.
Yes,
but it doesn't do that properly for the very reasons you've said.
Yeah,
that everything pans out exactly as she dreamt it, and that implies supernatural ability. I'm afraid
it does. It does.
Which is never set up.
No,
never set up.
No. Because I'm like, I don't understand. Like, why does she? I mean, I get she's frustrated with the husband who becomes the ambassador, and she doesn't want to go back to France because of this stuff. But I'm also just like, well, I don't know. Would Black Tie and that crew still be around looking at you? Like, I don't. If you are a dead ringer for this Lily, like, Lily's life is in danger.
Yeah, that's another point. Yeah, that's another point. Why doesn't she?
Yeah.
Why don't she just live her life as Lily, as a nobody?
Yeah. Like, she got to America. I mean, I get it. She, I guess in terms of like the femme fatale thing, she got the thing that all femme fatales want, and that is they got the diamonds, they got away, and they married rich and are living a luxurious life now. But for some reason, that when she comes back to France, all of that is jeopardized for for a motive I don't quite understand, I guess. And like,
here's another thing: if you take out the whole dream sequence. So if we say, right, all of it was a dream from the minute she's in the bath to the minute essentially she gets out of the bath and sees Lily trying to kill herself. So everything after, so the second time she gets out of the bath and sees Lily trying to kill herself, everything that's gone on from the first time she gets out of the bath to that point hasn't happened. Then really it's all about, well, Lily, you go off to America and marry a rich man. Off you go.
Yes.
She goes to meet her lover in a cafe where they split the diamonds. And then the lover says, well, we'll be too conspicuous together, so let's split up. And she just buys into that. And then they go off in separate directions. But then the lover gets run over by the truck. The Black Tie gets run over by the truck this time. So then, where's the femme fatale bit? All she's done is hoodwink her fellow heist thieves.
Yes.
So where's the femme fatale bit? So then the whole premise, the whole title, vanishes.
Yes.
And watching Double Indemnity doesn't mean anything.
Yes. Well, why did she? Because she only comes back to France because she's forced to with her marriage. So why 7 years later again is she still in France?
Yeah.
And is it just that it's been 7 years and now that Black Tie is out, he's going out for revenge, and we're just catching up to this stuff?
Is it just that?
Yeah.
In 7 years, why has she not come up with a plan to kill Peter Coyote and get all his money? And
she doesn't need to. She doesn't need to, because I'm talking about the real world, like post dream when she wakes up.
Oh, right. Okay.
When she wakes up, she doesn't go to America. She doesn't marry the guy.
No.
You know, so what? You know, why is she still in France? Because now at the end, she's, you know, what's her motive? Why is she there? What is she doing? Well, she's getting money from her lover, you know, from the snake girl. But what has she been doing for the last 7 years? What have they both been doing for the last?
Well, they've
7
both been.
years?
Why is it taking 7 years? Why is it taking 7 years
Yeah.
for him to meet back up again?
Yeah. And also, if that's the case, like, wouldn't once Black Tie was arrested, would he have not thrown her under the bus and said, "Okay, well, one of my accomplices was this lady."
Yeah, she's got the diamonds.
You know,
She legged it with the diamonds.
yeah.
You know, why doesn't he? Why doesn't he say that? Why didn't he do a plea bargain?
Pay no attention. Look at the guy walking upside down while the people behind him are sitting in a table.
Because it was all a dream. You know, but if you look at the small print, it wasn't. You know,
well, exactly, and it can't be. Like I said, it can't be a dream. It is a literal premonition, because she tells Lily when she stops her shooting herself, get on the plane. You're going to sit next to a really lovely man.
Yeah, you will fall in love.
How do you know all this stuff? And then she proves it by firing the gun.
Yeah.
So is that then Rebecca's character being literal, or taking a chance that the bullet is in the, you know, ready to be shot? But at the same time, she has already dreamt that this happens, and she's watching it re-happen, and she just dreamt it. So that's a hell of a coincidence.
That's a hell of a coincidence. Yeah, that's a hell of a coincidence.
It has to be a premonition. So it's not a dream; it's a premonition.
Yeah.
Which is, you know. So she's having a premonition while she's underwater. Hence why throughout the film we can see all the underwater bits, the Ophelia stuff, and when she falls into the Seine, like. That all makes sense, because she is doing this while she's underwater.
Yes, while she's in the bath.
Is she having a near-death experience? Is she drowning in that? Is she holding herself under? I
don't know. Has she fallen asleep in the bath? Yeah. I mean, why is she dreaming in the bath?
Yeah.
I don't know. Film doesn't. Well, if the film knows, it's not telling. It's almost as if he thought, De Palma thought, right, well, they throw her off the bridge into the water, and that's what wakes her up. So she's got to be in water when she wakes up. So she's in the bath.
Yeah,
that makes perfect sense. But it doesn't if you then just thought about it for a bit more. You'd think, has she fallen asleep in the bath then?
Yeah.
Or as you said before, could she have taken a narcotic that passes her out in the bath?
Yes.
Yeah, whatever. You've got to.
And therefore, the asthma attacks aren't asthma attacks. They're actually choking for air,
drowning. Yeah,
you know. Which then, but the asthma attack stuff was literally just a device used to get Bardo to go do something, so that she could frame him for her kidnapping.
Yeah, exactly. It was a ploy.
Just
like, doesn't.
All right.
It's what, like I say, it's one of those that, you know, it doesn't seem to stack up. But I don't know if that's because it's just such an onslaught of film that you need to sort of watch it multiple times to see if there's something going on that you've missed.
Yeah. Yes.
I mean, I don't know. I honestly don't know.
I mean, once we get to that the bridge scene where I feel like the femme fatale really becomes who she is here. And Rebecca starts like properly acting, then it just goes really crazy and really sleazy, really fast.
Yeah.
Like holy goodness, like, you know, Antonio Banderas is playing this character Bardo. He's a paparazzi. He's taking her picture, and she's framed him for her own kidnapping. She's gonna get like $10 million off her husband. They're either going to run away together or they're not. I don't know what she's doing with this money. Whatever. It's all a bit weird. But what is so bizarre is when they're at the club scene. What the hell is that club scene?
Yeah, I don't know.
You know, she's like, "Why are you the only one in here who doesn't want to fuck me?"
Yeah.
And he's like, "Well, because you're insane." And then she gets some guy who looks like Marv from Sin City to take her downstairs to a basement that apparently there's no one in, and starts to, like, stripping and do it. And you're like, what is going on?
Gives him a lap dance. I was starting to lose it at this point, and I was thinking, we don't need to see
all of that.
Rebecca Romijn's body again. I don't. Sharon Stone didn't do this much.
No.
In Basic Instinct, which I wonder whether she thought this was going to be her Basic Instinct.
Maybe, because it gets close, especially when she does her nude Christ-like pose being thrown to the Seine. It's all there.
There's nothing. There's nothing to hide.
No.
And I was thinking, we don't really need to see her in this sleazy, sexy way again. We've sort of seen it, and it's billed as an erotic thriller, but it wasn't to me. Because I was starting to think, can you move on now, please? Because I think we could cut this and lose, get this film down to an hour and 3/4.
Yeah, definitely. It's the whole scene just sort of plays, and you're just sort of like, I think what does Bardo say? Something about like bad choices or something after the deed is done. You're like, yep.
Yeah, not half.
Yep.
I did quite enjoy the battering in shadow on the walls.
Well, that was very out of the past, wasn't it?
Yeah. And again,
she's sitting there clapping, watching, just like out of the past as watch. That's
again
very much at the top
else.
front of my mind.
Yeah, absolutely. And something else that De Palma, has either paid homage to or nicked, whichever way you want to look at it.
Yes.
But it's a very dangerous thing to do, because it just makes you think. It can make you think, oh, I wish I was watching Out of the Past. And I've felt that too often watching this. But yeah, it was very out of the past, but it's quite an entertaining way of seeing it. And then, because for a minute I wasn't sure who's got the upper hand, because they both had long hair, and and it was flailing around everywhere. And I thought, is this going to be a twist, and he's going to step into frame, and it's not going to be Banderas?
Yeah.
But no, it was.
But it was. Yeah. We've sort of jumped all over the place. So we've sort of already talked about what happens next, and that is the bridge scene with the husband, and she shoots him, and then Black Tie, tackles him and beats her and throws her over the bridge, and then suddenly she wakes up, and there was that one really weird scene though with Lily in the truck. What the hell was that?
What the hell was that about? Yeah.
Just so we could connect the truck driver to the truck later in life.
And again, didn't need it. I didn't need it.
No.
I
didn't understand how Lily got in that truck. Like, you were at your home. Like, I don't understand. You come outside and you are outside. It's a gas station. Is this where we were the whole time? Is this where you live? Do your parents own a gas station? What is going on?
Because that's not the impression I get. I get the impression of wealth.
It was very, very, very freaking bizarre. But even that, and again,
this is the waking world. World. So this should be making perfect logical sense.
Yeah. But that whole conversation that Rebecca has with Lily, with her doppelganger, is that like, well, I know what's going to happen, and I've seen that road, and I don't want that to happen. I need a new future. And then again, but you're like, is this the Terminator? Like, is this science fiction now? Like, what? How do you like? I don't want to beat a dead horse to this, but it's just sort of like, what? All right, and then things play out slightly different at that square where. We get back to Antonio Banderas' Bardo. He gets the same phone call about the ambassador coming to town with an elusive wife. Why is she elusive? There's no reason for Lily to be elusive.
No idea.
There was a reason for Rebecca's character to be elusive. There's no reason for Lily to be elusive.
Yeah.
Go take a picture. And then down below is the scene with the Rebecca's lover in the cameo jumpsuit, and the whole thing plays out with Black Tie, but differently this time because Black Tie dies. Black Tie dies. But
wear them in the 90s.
Yeah. And then you just have the bizarre, weird meet cute between Antonio Banderas and Rebecca Romijn again.
Yeah.
And I feel like I known you, but she says it must have been in a dream.
Yeah, only in my dreams. So the film is very clear it's a dream.
But it's not.
But it can't be. Yeah.
Because look at what just happened.
It's very odd. It's very odd. I do like the bit. I quite liked the image of Antonio Banderas. What is his name? Bardo. He's taking a photo of the truck.
Yes.
And it's sort of his photo is the middle of the overall shot. I mean, I thought that was quite a nice little image to end on. But again, it's a bit cinema. It's very cinematic in it, and it's very arty, and it's very man walking in the circle and everyone else is at desks. It's that again,
Yes.
Yeah. This is a film and a half. This and I'm still reeling even after talking to you about it. I'm still reeling.
I know. I mean, I guess the question is like, what is this film trying to say about femme fatales, and what is this film doing to reinvent or reevaluate? Because like, what she reevaluates her life because she has a weird premonition, but also where does she go? She still steals the diamonds. She's still a thief.
She's still a thief. Yeah, she's still a thief. Where does she go?
She's still no better than Black Tie and his other guy. Like they're all.
She's not. I mean, I suppose at a push you could say she's saved Lily. I suppose, but so well, I don't mean so what, but you know what I mean. I sort of think, well, all right, but that's not total redemption. That's not total. You've not learned anything, have you? You've not learned anything about yourself. So if you think at the end of Double Indemnity, Fred McMurray has learned something about himself and what he's capable of, and he isn't really happy about it. So he's a different person at the end of the film than he is at the beginning by far. But is she? I don't think she is. I don't think she is.
No,
like you say, she's still got stolen diamonds,
right?
And we don't see her doing any good with it at the end. There's no sort of.
No, she's still taking the money and run that she's stolen. So I'm like, well, you're still a femme fatale.
Yeah, you
just didn't go the erotic thriller route.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I didn't hate this. I just was frustrated by it, and that's why I've said all along that I wonder if a second or maybe even a third viewing might iron out some of the frustration. I don't know, but I can live in hope.
Yeah, it's an interesting article to come back to at some point in the future.
Yeah. It's certainly not one that I would race to recommend or to say you must watch this or can't wait to watch it again. I mean, I will watch it again, but it won't be tonight, for example, or even tomorrow. But I didn't hate it. I don't know whether I'm on the loathe it or love it camp yet. I've not made up my mind.
I think it's probably best positioned as watching this with a double feature of Mulholland Drive followed by this, or this followed by Mulholland Drive, because
do it that way around.
They fall into this weird camp of surrealist noir where it's you don't know what's going on, and it's none of it is reliable. It is meant to, it is constantly playing with your mind, and therefore you can kind of wipe away or ignore plot inconsistencies or whatever, because who knows when the dream really began.
Yeah, well, quite.
You know, I mean, they
Yeah.
say the bathtub is where it happens, obviously, but like at the same time, I would say this whole thing could just be a looping dream inside her head, because she fell off.
Yeah.
She was thrown 3 stories off a whatever she was thrown off of in that hotel room.
The hotel, the hotel
off the balcony.
Yeah,
Just,
that to me is a more. I mean, unless you're, I could believe somebody who says to me, "Well, she's thrown off that balcony onto the towels. That's made a woozy, and she gets in the bath and passes out." I can buy that, but
well, see, I still struggle to buy the fact that the parents even got her home after that. Like, why did that just wouldn't have happened?
Yeah,
So I'm thinking actually maybe her, you know, she's probably just in a coma. This is my new theory. This is my theory, guys. This is a brand new theory for Femme Fatale. She falls off that balcony, and she's just in a coma somewhere in some hospital bed, and she plays
for the rest of the film,
for the whole film, and never wakes up. And therefore, that's why things replay themselves, because she's finished one dream, and now she's living a new dream, and she'll just continue to live these dreams because she's in a coma, because she's been chucked off a 5-story balcony.
I can buy that. You see, I can fully accept that. That's
Stage your film, Brian De Palma. 30 years later.
Yeah,
not 30, but close. Well, on that note, should we rate it?
Well, yeah. I just don't know what to give it. That's so frustrating.
It is very frustrating. I'll go first. It is very difficult, because there's things that are good and there's things that are confusing and things that are bad, and it's a very complicated film.
Yeah, it is.
But I think I'm happy to give it a 2 Falcons.
I had a number in mind from the outset, and that is purely to reflect the fact that I don't know if I love it or hate it at the minute. I was not bored. I cannot say I was bored, and I was entertained in a bizarre sort of way, but I was frustrated by the constant spectre of what I think is a better film. So I'm going down the middle because I'm not certain which side of the fence I want to fall down on permanently. You know, and maybe if I rewatch it again, I'll update listeners in, you know, on the score. But I don't. It certainly isn't a 1, and it certainly isn't a 5.
No.
And I reckon if I watched it again, I could probably edge it to a 4. Equally, I could edge it to a 2. So I think I'm going to say 3 to reflect that total balance of opinion of how I feel.
Well, and that's the thing with these things. Like we give our ratings, but you know, we could rewatch the same film 2 years from now and have a different rating. You know,
exactly. Exactly.
This is our initial impression, our initial reactions to this particular film, and that is it's a 2 for me, it's a 3 for you. But you know, I could have almost convinced myself to give it a 3, but I'm going to stick with my 2. But well, there we are. I would say Femme Fatale 2002 has been thoroughly investigated.
Yes.
We can close the file and put it back in the drawer and move on to the next investigation. But as I said at the top of the episode, if you haven't yet, do like and subscribe and share and leave us reviews. Really does help us out. It'd be really great if you guys could do that. You know, in the meantime, you know, you can chat with us on social media. We're on Twitter, and join our Facebook page as well. But we will be back next week with another case. So remember to take care walking down those mean streets.